SLT එක්ක ස්පීඩ් අප් වෙන්න. සුපර් ඩීල්ස් අත්විඳින්න. SLT ස්පීඩ් අප් සුපර් ඩීල්ස් සැප්තැම්බර් 30 දක්වා පමණයි.
Tonight, reprieve. Fuel prices slashed from midnight. Keeping secrets. 8 cabinet ministers fault asset declaration deadline.
Not only by the 30th of June, thereafter by the 20th of August, 8 cabinet ministers still have not filed their asset declaration.
The preamble to the presidential poll. UNP's leader and deputy leader in crunch talks as the alliance's symbol becomes a stumbling block in SLPP-SLFP coalition plans. Tough times. Minister of Sports directs Sri Lanka cricket to keep one of its former presidents at bay. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Tuesday, the 10th of September 2019.
Nama Lifebuoy Cool Fresh සහ Lemon Fresh Menthol සහ Lemon සාරයෙන් දහඩිය ගඳ ඇති කරන සංගුණ විස බීජ වලින් ආරක්ෂා කර ඔබව fresh කරයි. විස බීජ off, fresh එක on.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanaka. Let's start with your local stories. It is that day of the month, the dreaded 10th, when the monthly fuel price revision is to take effect. Today, however, there is some reprieve as the government has decided to reduce the price of fuel in line with the fuel pricing formula. Accordingly, the price of petrol 92 octane will see a rupees reduction, while petrol 95 octane and super diesel will be reduced by 2 rupees per litre. The Minister of Finance, however, stated that the price of auto diesel will remain unchanged. The new prices will come into effect from this midnight. Now, Transparency International today lodged a complaint with the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery and corruption against 8 cabinet ministers for failing to declare assets and liabilities for 2018 and 2019. Speaking to media afterwards, Executive Director of Transparency International Sri Lanka, Ashoka Abesekara, revealed that the 8 cabinet ministers had failed to submit documentation even 2 months after the deadline had expired.
Using the Right to Information Act, we have requested from the Presidential Secretariat for the list of ministers that have filed their asset declaration as at the 30th of June, which is the date on which they must file their asset declarations by. We have been informed that not only by the 30th of June, but also thereafter by the 20th of August, 8 cabinet ministers still have not filed their asset declaration. Those 8 cabinet ministers are Navin Disanayaka, Harin Fernando, Mano Ganesan, MHA Halim, Akila Viraj Karyavasam, Ravi Karunanayaka, Gayantha Karunatilaka, Sajit Premadasa. Now, on the other hand, we have 10 members of parliament who have unilaterally given their asset declaration to the public. We're talking about people from a whole host of different political parties who have said, in the public interest, we need to change our political culture and have this sort of information in the public domain. However, these 8 ministers have not provided that information to the Presidential Secretariat even after 2 months after the deadline. So we want to ensure that this information is properly handled. Anything connected to asset declarations has to be dealt with by SIABOC, and we want them to take appropriate action to ensure that this culture of accountability can finally come through.
The Election Commission, as of today, has been empowered by the Constitution to announce the date for the 2019 presidential election. Its chairman, Mahinda Deshapriya, recently told media that the election could be held on a date between the 9th of November and the 9th of December. AdaDerana First at 9 is ready to bring you the latest updates and developments from the political arena leading up to the presidential election through our special segment, Sri Lanka Decides. In our first segment, we will be taking a close look at developments surrounding the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and Sri Lanka Freedom Party. The parties have held a series of negotiations in the past few weeks with the aim of forming the groundwork for much anticipated alliance for the upcoming presidential election with SLPP candidate, former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa as their presidential nominee. Now, although both parties predict a positive outcome from the discussions, the chief point of contention between the groups so far has been the choice of alliance symbol, the SLPP insisting the party's flower bud symbol, to which the SLFP are not in agreement. During our discussions, we arrived at a mutual consensus on many issues, which I would term extremely positive. I'm not ready to compromise our discussions. The SLPP has a very similar political ideology to ours, but we have a number of issues to resolve with them. We are against corruption and looting public property. We saw what happened during the 52-day government. If the same happens when Gotabaya Rajapaksa comes to power, the SLFP will have no option but to stand against them from the very outset. SLPP supporters won't vote for the UNP if there is a symbol other than the flower bud. But there are SLFP supporters who are not prepared to vote for the symbol flower bud because these two groups have had clashes at the grassroots level. This is why we are asking them to stop clinging on to a specific symbol and choose an appropriate alternative. The SLFP is ready to join an alliance of parties to contest the upcoming presidential election. We're not joining an SLPP alliance. Therefore, we can't use the symbol of either of the parties for an alliance. That is why we need a separate symbol. We will not agree to change our symbol from the flower bud under any circumstances or influences. We have had around 15 rounds of talks so far, but the topic of changing the symbol has not been raised during any of these talks.
ඒකම අවස්ථාවකවත් පොහොට්ටුව වෙනස් කරන්න කියන ඉල්ලීම ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ සාකච්ඡා මේසේ ඇවිල්ලානේ. ප්‍රේමදාස වැඩිපුර විවේචනය කරන්නේ රනිල්ට වඩා සජිත් ඔබතුමාලට අභියෝගයක් ඉඳලා. අපිට දැන් එයා විවේචනය.
The reason we criticize him is because of the statements he make. The 2015 presidential candidate said he will not reside in presidential mansions or use cutouts. This candidate repeats the same things. Will the people accept these? Now, crucial discussions between leader of the UNP Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and party's deputy leader, Minister Sajith Premadasa, commenced a short while ago at Temple Trees. The discussions are widely seen as a last-ditch attempt to solve the question over the party's presidential candidate that has seen the party split into two opposing camps. While Minister Premadasa has already proclaimed himself as the nominee, party leader Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe is expected to nominate himself as the UNP's pick, a decision that is expected to plunge the United National Party into further crisis. We will bring you updates on these developments as and when they arrive. But first, let's see what happened leading up to these discussions.
Crucial talks are currently being held between leader of the UNP, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, and Deputy Leader Minister Sajith Premadasa to make a final decision on party's candidate for the upcoming presidential election. The talks hold extra significance since Minister Premadasa has announced himself as the presidential hopeful of the party, despite there being no official announcement forthcoming. It is also understood that Premier Wickremesinghe is also eyeing a run in the presidential poll. With this being the case, a special discussion was held in Jaffna yesterday between Minister Sajith Premadasa and representatives of the Tamil National Alliance. Members of the TNA included parliamentarians Mave Senadiraja, M.A. Sumandran, D. Siddharthan, E. Saravanabavan and Mayor of Jaffna E. Arnold. Representatives of the TNA had told the minister that their stance will be announced once UNP nominates its presidential candidate. Meanwhile, several members of the UNP expressed strong views regarding the issue of the presidential candidacy.
If both the leader and deputy leader say that they want to contest in the election, the working committee of the party should conduct a secret ballot and elect one as the presidential candidate. And if a third member expresses willingness, the leader should first speak with us and nominate the name.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමා ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකයා කියන 99 වගේ පිරිසක් ඉන්නවා. සුළු පිරිසක් පෞද්ගලික වාස්තකා ඊට විරුද්ධ වෙනවා.
සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කරලා
We will ensure our path to victory by nominating Minister Sajith Premadasa as the party's presidential candidate. We are 100% sure that the Prime Minister will give us his blessings in this regard. We will sort out this problem within this week.
අපි මේ සතිය ඇතුළත මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ විර කරගන්න.
කෘත්‍ය අධිකාරියෙන් තීන්දුව කරලා
The minority communities will support the candidate chosen by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe following the decisions of the UNP Working Committee meeting. Other communities must also be of this view because he is a leader without any prejudices.
ඒ අපිට ඒක ජාතිවාද නීති නායකයෙක්
We will be bringing you more local news on the other side of this very short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, former commander of the Sri Lanka Army, General Derana, seems willing to be involved in Sri Lanka's efforts to eradicate Islamist extremism and terrorism if his services are called upon. Despite his involvement in national security affairs coming to an end in February of 2015, General Derana expressed confidence that there are no insurmountable challenges for a Sri Lankan soldier given their achievements during and after the 3-decade-long conflict. The former Army commander's thoughts came as he spoke to Indiva Riyamuatta during our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24 recently.
General Ratnak, in your understanding, in your analysis here, is the situation, the security situation much worse or bigger, the threat, than what we would have earlier anticipated? Because if you're still arresting those who have been trained at the hands of an extremist,
this is a very serious threat. Now there are three parts: capturing, eradicating extremism. Then comes there are so many things happening around the world. As a result, people get self-radicalization. So when these things happen through our religious leaders, through our education system, our social media and other things, we have to educate these people and go down to the village level and have seminars, conferences and create. Then come back to the long-term thing and have proper reconciliation system. These are things that we have to be very serious. If you were asked to lead a mission to counter all this, would you happily accept? Why not? Why you can't say? We have been soldiers, and any challenge, no problem, we can take on, no problem. Sri Lanka has gone beyond reasonable doubt. We can handle all these things. We won a prize in the world. Defeating terrorism was a world record. Basically, a lot of people in the world thought terrorism cannot be defeated militarily. Then rehabilitation, we have achieved it. Reconciliation stuff and demining. International organization wanted 20 years to do that. Within 2-3 years, we have done it. Nobody talks about it now. The resettlement of 400,000 people, the international organization wanted 7 or 10 years. Within 1 year, we finish it. Nobody talks about it now. And so we have achieved all these things. We have experience. We have experienced people. So only thing, you have to have a proper leadership. You have to have a proper concept. You have to have a system to implement it and put it into practice.
Now, Sri Lanka's ban and restrictions on pesticides have been lauded as a key factor in reducing rates of suicide in the country by a staggering 70%. The World Health Organization highlighted Sri Lanka for praise as it released a publication recently in the lead up to the World Suicide Prevention Day, which falls today. It points to pesticide self-poisoning as one of the most common methods of suicide, adding that Sri Lanka's efforts to ban and restrict access to the substances has worked wonders in the country. The report, titled Preventing Suicide, a resource for pesticide registrars and regulators, called the efforts to regulate pesticides highly effective but underused globally and singled out Sri Lanka as the best studied country where the bans led to an estimated 93,000 lives saved between 1995 and 2015. The report outlines pesticide self-poisoning as especially lethal given the high toxicity of the substances, with ingestion often leading to death, particularly in situations where rapid access to antidotes or medical facilities are unavailable. Sri Lanka is currently ranked 29th in the world suicide rate by Country 2019 Index, a significant improvement from being ranked number 1 in 1995. The Attorney General has filed indictment comprising 7,573 charges in Avantgarde arms trafficking case against Chairman of Avantgarde Nisankayapa Senadipati and other defendants. Attorney General's Coordinating Officer Nishara Jayaratne, that State Counsel Nishara Jayaratne, said that the indictment was filed before the trial at bar in Colombo High Court. The 7,573 charges include unlawful possession of automatic firearms and live ammunition rounds. And now the construction of Sri Lanka's first ever port access elevated highway commenced today. The project is expected to alleviate traffic congestion in Colombo's densely populated areas, improve connectivity between the country's expressway networks and Colombo's international port, provide better logistics services for freight operations, and facilitate regional trade.
The foundation stone for Sri Lanka's first ever port access elevated highway was laid today under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The 28 billion rupee construction project began with the support of a 54.2 billion rupee loan facility extended by the Asian Development Bank. It will see the construction of a 5.3 kilometer highway on pillars which connect to the new Kalani Bridge from Ingurukade Junction near the Kalanitissa power station and extend onward to the Colombo port city. It will link to Galle Face by a tunnel road. In addition, a 17-storied maritime facilitation centre is to be constructed outside the port boundary to replace the buildings demolished to make way for the elevated highway.
We are currently working on constructing this road up to the Kolpiti Junction. This will increase the area of Galle Green and link it directly to Marine Drive. In early next year, we will also start the construction process of Colombo's main multi-purpose transport hub in Colombo Fort. Through connecting the international airport with the port city and the main business district of Colombo, we stand to gain a sizable economic power.
At the foundation laying stone ceremony today, Road Development Authority and main contractor of the project, China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, entered into the relevant agreement on constructing the highway. A consultancy firm jointly set up by the United States, the UK and Sri Lanka will provide consultancy.
The public will benefit from these roads in a few more years. With these development projects, efforts are underway for Sri Lanka to become the centre of South Asia. Although there are criticisms against us, they are worried about this speedy development process. Police say that the two T-56 firearms that were reported missing from the Panadura North Police Station have been recovered during investigations into the shooting of two policemen at Akurasa, and 5 suspects, including 2 army soldiers, have been arrested. Last Thursday, 2 police officers in duty in Akurasa had given chase to 3 persons on a motorcycle without license plates, which had ignored their stop orders. The suspects, however, had opened fire at the police officers and fled. Akurasa police took one of the suspects into custody last evening, with information obtained from the suspect leading to 5 more arrests. 2 of them are soldiers affiliated to the Panadura army camp. Following the interrogation of the suspects, police had recovered 2 T-56 firearms, 2 magazines and ammunition hidden away at a culvert by the suspects. It had been revealed that one of these 2 firearms had been used to open fire at the 2 police officers. During further interrogation of the suspects, it was revealed that the recovered firearms are in fact the 2 T-56 assault rifles that had been stolen from the Panadura North Police Station recently. Accordingly, a team of officers from Akurasa Police arrested an army soldier at Nalluruwa in Panadura North this morning in connection with the theft of the two firearms. Meanwhile, another suspect had been arrested for allegedly aiding and abetting this incident as well as funding them. Deputy Minister of Social Empowerment Palitha Thevarapperuma and 4 others have been remanded until the 16th of September for forcibly burying a body at an unauthorised land. The order was delivered by the Mataguma magistrate when the Deputy Minister and other suspects were produced before court today. The suspect had reportedly violated a court order and forcibly buried a corpse in the cemetery at Troit Estate in neighbourhood of Matugama. On the 19th of August, the owner of the said land had lodged a complaint with the Thebuana police against the burial of a deceased person's remains at the estate premises. The police then obtained an injunction order from the Matugama Magistrates Court based on the landowner's complaint. Deputy Minister Thevarapperuma and 4 others, however, had violated the court order. There's more news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the CBA Excellence in Integrated Reporting Awards 2019, organised by the Institute of Certified Management Accountants, was held in Colombo yesterday. Addressing the event, Speaker Karu Jayasuriya stated that although there is great interest from public quoted companies to participate in state-owned enterprises, they are restricted to state banks alone, which are currently regulated by the central bank. He added that this highlights the important role played by the central bank in making state enterprises more efficient and productive.
However, I have noted that although there is a great interest from the public quoted companies in the participation of state-owned enterprises are restricted to the state banks currently regulated by the central bank, which shows that a regulator can play an important role in making state enterprises efficient, productive, and provide timely reporting, and they may be a matter worth considering for all state enterprises. It is very important that state enterprises follow global practices and implement integrated reporting to promote good management and to report the value created by these organizations by the use of public funds and returns given to the state. The respective ministries, the Committee on Public Enterprises and the Public Account Committee should make it mandatory for all these state institutions and government ministers and departments to submit integrated reports on a timely basis, making them accountable with the application of good governance principles.
Deputy Chairman and Group Finance Director of John Keel's Holdings, Gihan Kure, stated that Sri Lanka's economy has shown a fair bit of resilience after the Easter attacks in April this year. Kure noted that the island's economy has shown promising growth momentum over the past few months, despite several major challenges such as the terror attacks and the upcoming presidential election.
Initially, there was quite a downturn naturally as expected with the type of event that happened. But fortunately, we are seeing the growth momentum pick up. Month on month, we're seeing quite a strong rise in the arrivals. We've been monitoring the forward bookings compared to, say, the same period last year. And we're happy to see that the trend of forward bookings is actually quite positive. We're seeing almost the same level of bookings from the period September to March 2020.
Gihan Kure also disregarded fears of political uncertainty in the run-up to the presidential election and emphasized that the country's economy is strong enough to weather any challenges.
I think the economy has shown a fair bit of resilience post the incident in April. We've seen sort of consumer sentiment being relatively strong post the event. And whilst everyone is looking to the elections and there may not be too many large ticket policy decisions being made in the run-up to the elections, the fundamentals of the economy are in decent shape. And as a result of that, we're seeing growth momentum in some sectors on the consumer side. Politics, of course, will play its part, but I think the economy has shown certain growth momentum at the moment, and naturally post the election with further clarity on certain policies and large ticket investments, I think that could be a further catalyst for growth going forward.
And now to give you a market update, the all-share price index edged up as a result of price gains in counters such as Ceylon Coal Stores, Brown's Investments and Distilleries, while the S&P/SL closed in red. Market turnover was 716.3 million rupees today, more than this year's daily average of about 649.5 million rupees so far. High net worth and institutional investor participation was noted in Melster Corp and Citizens Development Business Finance. Mixed interest was observed in Sampath Bank and Union Bank, whilst retail interest was noted in Brown's Investments. Foreign investors sold a net 46.4 million rupees worth of shares, extending the year-to-date net foreign outflow to 1.77 billion rupees worth of equities. Taking a look at currency, the Sri Lankan rupee ended 0.1% firmer at 180 rupees and 32.50 cents against the US dollar, compared to yesterday's close of 180 rupees and 42.60 cents. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies around the globe. Chaos ensued in the House of Commons yesterday as opposition lawmakers attempted to prevent Speaker John Bercow from leaving his seat and proceeding with a ceremony that would prorogue Parliament until the 14th of October. Speaker Bercow, who announced yesterday that he will be stepping down from the Speaker's role he held since 2009, made his thoughts clear on the Prime Minister's prorogation move, saying that as one of the longest suspensions for decades, the move represents to many an act of executive fiat. Tense scenes came about after British lawmakers rejected PM Boris Johnson's request to try to break the political deadlock on Brexit through an early national election. Opposition members held up signs reading "silenced" and yelled "shame on you" at the Prime Minister's ruling Conservatives and refused to leave the House of Commons chambers. With Brexit still in a state of limbo more than 3 years since the 2016 referendum, the only possible outcomes for Prime Minister Boris Johnson currently range from an exit on the 31st of October without a withdrawal agreement to abandoning the whole endeavour.
I had already made the point if people had the manners to listen, which they haven't, that honour that I will play my part. This is not, however, a normal prorogation. It is not typical. It is not standard. It's one of the longest for decades, and it represents, not just in the minds of many colleagues, but huge numbers of people outside, an act of executive fiat. I completely understand why very large numbers of members are much more comfortable staying where they are. Mr. Stewart, if you don't like it, you're perfectly entitled to your view. I couldn't give a flying flamingo what your view is. Thank you very much indeed.
Parliament will reconvene on the 14th of October for what is known as the Queen's Speech, which will set out the government's fresh legislative programme and officially open the House of Commons. Minister of Sports Harin Fernando has issued a special directive preventing former President of Sri Lanka Cricket Tilanga Sumathipala from holding any position at the cricket governing body. In a letter to the SLC, the minister directed officials to exclude the UPFA MP from participating, sitting or voting in any meetings of SLC committees and prevent him from performing any functions or duties as an office bearer or as the immediate past president of SLC. Minister Fernando instructs the SLC to prevent Tilanga Sumathipala from participating as or representing Sri Lanka cricket pending further notification pursuant to a report to be received by the minister. The Minister of Sports further states that he has appointed a 3-member investigation panel following a complaint received by a sports club. The panel is tasked with investigating whether MP Tilanga Sumathipala is disqualified from functioning as an office bearer of SLC with regard to the National Association of Sports regulations and to report back to him within a month. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.